What's up guys? Welcome back to another video. I'm going to be walking you guys through the ultimate guide to fix your sleep. The beginning of this is going to be a little front loaded with sleep education, why it matters, what's a circadian rhythm, how do you align it, and how do you optimize being aligned. I'll give you guys sort of a how do you find the exact amount of hours you need at night to sleep. Then we'll get into the daily habits that you can do to maximize your sleep. And then finally, some optional supplementation and what not to supplement. I want you to really understand why you're doing it, because odds are you've tried to fix your sleep before, you try to implement some good habits, you couldn't really stick with them, whether it be lifestyle or motivation reasons. You've been told to get 7 to 9 hours at night, and you know that it's important. If you're fitness motivated, maybe you know it's important for training, but you don't truly understand why. Not truly understanding why enables people to not make it a priority in their life. But what you actually need to be revolving your life around is sleep. Sleep is the number one thing that you can invest in for your health. My hope is that by walking you through why everything is important, you'll be able to implement those more because you'll have a deeper understanding of your biology and your internal circadian rhythm. Guys, it's really important that you understand why you're doing the things that you're doing in order for you to establish a very solid foundation of why you're doing it. First thing I'm going to start out with is, why does sleep matter? So if you think similar to how I did about a year ago, you know that sleep's important and you've been told that 7 to 9 hours is recommended, but you haven't really thought of it as a huge deal or a big priority because you don't understand exactly why. So for me personally, I used to see really good results from training, even though I would go to bed at 2 a.m. sometimes. So I was like, yeah, I'm clearly, doing fine. Why does sleep matter? But the thing is, just because I looked good on the outside doesn't mean I'm functioning optimally on the inside. Like bodybuilding shows, those guys look diced on stage, right? Behind the scenes, they're in a calorie deficit. They're trying not to pass out. They're having all these issues because there's such a low body fat percentage. So just because something looks good on the outside doesn't mean it's functioning optimally on the inside. And speaking of the gym, there's been a lot of research between sleep and self-control. People who reported or demonstrated having better sleep at night had better self-control during the day. So sleep literally improves your ability to say no to cookies brought at work, to say no to the urge to sit on the couch and eat chips and watch TV after work instead of going to work out. Sleep boosts discipline by enabling you to do the things that you know you need to do. If sleep is poor, everything else is going to feel harder. Training is going to feel harder. Eating well is going to feel harder. If you're trying to kick a bad habit, that's going to feel even harder. Sleep governs your decision making and your emotional control overall. So that's one reason sleep matters, is you want to have self-discipline. Second reason sleep is important is chronic disease risk. You guys probably know about this one already, but cardiovascular risk, type 2 diabetes, other metabolic disorders, neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, dementia. If you're someone that regularly sleeps 6 or less hours, you are going to be highly at risk for these things. And also, it just makes you feel better day to day overall. On days you get better sleep the night before, you're going to notice less anxiety. You're going to be more willing to engage in playful behavior. You're going to be less irritable. Sleep is a natural part of the human experience. And if you're not engaging in it, you're losing out on a lot of benefits. So that's why sleep matters. Now let's talk about, what is a circadian rhythm? How do you align it? And how do you optimize your own circadian rhythm? So your circadian rhythm is basically a reflection of your daily behaviors. Not just what time you wake up and what time you go to sleep, but it's also your eating habits, what time you exercise, and your light exposure. How much sun are you getting during the day, and how much fluorescent lighting are you under during the day? Circadian alignment is how closely all these behaviors match your internal biological clock. Circadian clock is a real genetically programmed timing system that is meant to synchronize your human physiology to the sun outside on a 24-hour cycle. The sun has been rising and setting since the dawn of time. Humans, our ancestors, are specifically adapted to follow a 24-hour cycle. And it wasn't really until recently that we had access to screens, phones in our pockets, laptops, TVs, under fluorescent lighting most of the day at work. If you have no idea where to start, here's a very general infographic here. Basically, morning 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., cortisol rises, primes you to movement, you're more alert. By the late afternoon, early evening, this looks about 2 to 6 p.m. here. This is where you're going to reach your optimal peak physical performance. So this is like the best time to work out. You're gonna have better reaction time, better strength, and power output. At night, you're gonna be more tired. Melatonin is rising, insulin is suppressed, your body's getting ready to rest. The better you can optimize yourself to the natural rising and setting of the sun, the better. So while sleep time is very individual and the amount of hours of sleep you need per night is also very individual, there's no denying that you're going to be functioning more optimally if you can secure your internal clock timing to that of the sun. Aligning your circadian rhythm is not so much about rigid scheduling or obsessing over optimization. It can literally be as simple as rising and setting with the sun. You can't force biology to adapt to modern convenience. The better and more aligned that your circadian rhythm is to match the sun outside, the better your life is going to be and the better you are going to feel. The concept of deep sleep is not one that many people are familiar with, but it's a big reason of why sleeping 7 to 9 hours each night doesn't necessarily mean you're getting proper sleep. 2 people can sleep 8 hours, one person wakes up restored, the other person wakes up exhausted. Why is this? Because sleep quality matters. You get 7 good hours, of course, it's better than 9 suboptimal hours. But you may be thinking, what exactly does 7 good hours mean? It's important to remember humans are not a stopwatch, guys. We just talked about circadian rhythm. We talked about how our body is literally on a clock that rises and sets with the sun. Our sleep schedules aren't banks where you can just deposit 7 to 9 hours into, like, oh, I went to bed at 2 a.m. and I woke up at 10 a.m., 8 hours in the bank. It doesn't work like that. At night, early sleep cycles are going to contain more deep sleep phases than later sleep cycles. So what does this mean? This means someone that goes to bed at 10 p.m. is going to have more deep sleep usually than someone that goes to bed at 1 a.m. Deep sleep is the phase of sleep that's most responsible for physical recovery, growth hormone release, tissue repair, all these things that you're damaging while you're training throughout the day. Deep sleep is the phase of sleep where these problems are going to be addressed. This is where recovery is going to happen the most, and this is what's going to help you wake up feeling more refreshed. So like I said, because they're front loaded into the first half of the night, the later you go to bed, the more your opportunity to maximize your deep sleep is going to be reduced. So someone that goes to bed at 10 and sleeps until 6 is going to be much better off because they are hitting those front-loaded deep sleep waves. Just because you're hitting the time range doesn't mean it's optimal for biology, right? It's the same mentality with diet. Just because you track your macros and you log your calories doesn't mean you're getting the adequate micronutrient intake that is required to sustain your biology the most optimally. The body cares when sleep happens because that timing determines when physiological processes can occur. And your body lines this up with the circadian rhythm. Now I'm going to get into how you can find out how many hours you need at night. So this is going to depend per individual. Some people need 9 hours to function their best, and some people can do fine on 8. Some can even do better on 7. It's really going to benefit you to find out how many hours you need specifically. The best way to find out how many hours of sleep you truly need at night is to go to bed at the same time every day. For a week, every single day, Monday through Sunday, go to bed at the same time. And if you can, don't wake up to an alarm. Just let your body wake up whenever it wants to wake up. After going to bed at the same time every night, tracking when you wake up naturally, not to an alarm, that will tell you how many hours your body needs of sleep at night. When you're consistently going to bed at the same time every night, waking up without an alarm, and feeling rested throughout the day, that's when you know you've hit your optimal sleep target. Unfortunately, not many people get a chance to test this because their job or school requires you to be there at a certain time during the day. So you're never actually able to find the amount of hours that you need specifically because you're going to bed at a different time every night and you're waking up to an alarm every single day. So you're not truly ever getting the amount of sleep that you need. So now that we covered all the education aspects of it, let's get into the actual actionables that you can do and start taking to fix your sleep. The first is, if you wake up early, don't go back to sleep. If you're someone, you wake up before your alarm and you realize that you still have 40 minutes before your alarm goes off and you're like, hell yeah, I'll just go back to sleep until my alarm goes off. Don't do that. You're better off just staying awake at the natural time you woke up. This is because sleep cycles, so it's not just logging minutes, that you've gone through an actual cycle of sleep. In that 40 minutes before your alarm goes off, you're not going to be able to actually go through a full cycle of sleep. You're gonna cut it short in the first 40 minutes and then you didn't get to finish the cycle and now you're gonna wake up exhausted. This is why sometimes you wake up feeling more tired after you slept in an extra 40 minutes than if you would have just stayed awake when you woke up before your alarm. If you wake up early, just stay awake at that time. Another big thing is getting morning sunlight. So try to go outside for 5 to 10 minutes in the first half hour of waking up. Of course, it's optimal to wake up and watch the sunrise, but not everyone is going to want to wake up. Just try to make it a priority to get 5 to 10 minutes of sunlight when you first wake up. Even if it's cloudy, make sure you're still waking up and getting that outside light. Yes, it matters if you view it through a window. Go outside and let your eyes literally look at the sky. Don't let there be glass in between. The lux when you're looking through a window is going to be a lot lower than if you actually go outside. So your body won't even process it quite right if you're looking at the sun through a window. That will really help you anchor your circadian rhythm. This is a big one. Most people know this, but don't actually follow it. Avoid screens for an hour to 2 hours before you go to sleep. It's a lot of not only unnecessary dopamine, but blue light exposure that you wouldn't be exposed to normally after the sun goes down. If you can't do 2 hours, at least shoot for 1. Don't look at your phone, don't look at your computer, don't look at TV. Just exist for an hour before you go to sleep. Maybe take this time to shower, brush your teeth, meditate. Just really avoid that phone an hour before bed. This kind of ties into what you could do while you're avoiding screens. So taking 30 to 60 minutes of meditation, relaxation, journaling, anything for your mind to clear out. This is because the second your head hits the pillow, you're thinking about, oh, I should have said this during that argument, or I have to do this list of things tomorrow. You just start going through your day the second your head hits the pillow because you haven't actually taken time to yourself off of your phone to think about and process the events that happened. Take 30 to 60 minutes, not be in your bed, and just think. Allow yourself to walk through the events of the day before you actually physically get in bed. Another big one that I talked about in my last video is to refrain from eating any food within 2, 3, honestly, even 4 hours before bed. This is because the process of digestion will keep your body awake, even if you're physically asleep, of course, but that doesn't mean your stomach is going to sleep. If you're feeding your stomach right before you go to bed, your body thinks it's daylight. Your body's unconscious processes are actually going to keep your brain awake at night. While you'll still be asleep, you're not going to hit these deeper stages of sleep. You're going to be stuck in the superficial stages. Similar to exercising or any sort of high stress activity, don't do that within 4 hours before bed. Physical activity and hard training tells your body that it's time to be awake, stress is happening, and we need to go. You don't want to be feeding those stimuli to your body late at night. Avoid any high stress activities and exercise within 3 to 4 hours before bed. You want to also create a cold, dark environment for rest. Usually if you have a normal standard thermostat, 69 degrees should be fine. But experiment with different temperatures. It might feel a little cold when you're falling asleep at first, but the colder the better. Also, the darker the better. If you can get blackout curtains, if you've got like thin curtains and the light just is clearly shining through them, try and get blackout curtains. You also want to make sure you have a quiet environment. So right now, if you listen, not a single sound coming from my window. If you live in a city or there's traffic outside your window, you should look into white noise or earplugs while you sleep. Your brain is still awake in the background even if you're asleep. So it's able to take in and process all these stimuli, and the stimuli are telling it, hey, like things are awake, things are bustling, like we should wake up too. And that's not what you want when you're trying to sleep at night. And of course, guys, since your circadian rhythm is aligned with the sun, more time you can spend outside, the better. This is why if you spend a whole summer day outside, you're usually exhausted by the time you get back in. Nothing is going to tell you when to sleep better than the sun. If you have no idea where to start and you don't understand any of the science, you can rise and set with the sun. At the end of the day, it's that easy. The more time you spend outside, the less time you spend indoors, the better is going to be for your sleep, because your eyes process the position of the sun in the sky and the waves that you're getting, and it feeds into the rest of the receptors of your body. As far as supplements go or other nuances before you sleep, red light goggles or glasses are a great tool to have, especially if you live with other people. You can't always control the light environment, so maybe they're going to be on their phones, or maybe they're going to have the overhead light turned on. Instead of forcing everyone to adapt to your schedule, just get a pair of red light goggles. A lot of influencers try to market pairs for $40, but you can get laser protection goggles. I got these for $9.99 on Amazon. It will make a huge difference. Even if you can't perfectly avoid screens, wearing these is going to help a lot. I highly recommend supplementing with magnesium glycinate before bed. Don't take melatonin. Your body should produce melatonin naturally on its own. If you're taking melatonin, you're going to suppress the natural production of it. You don't want to be dependent on a supplement. Magnesium glycinate is different. Your body's not going to make that on its own, and it's a natural electrolyte that you should be getting in. It's hard to get it from diet, so I highly recommend finding a good source and supplementing a couple 100 milligrams about an hour before you go to bed. And then another extremely underrated thing that I've experimented with recently: put your phone in airplane mode, turn off the Wi-Fi on your phone, and don't sleep next to your phone. Put it either on your dresser, farther away on your nightstand. If you have your phone near you at night, your brain still recognizes that there is a massive source of dopamine nearby, and you're going to be tempted to check your phone, even like unconsciously. Like, you won't be able to fully fall asleep because your brain knows that there's a source of dopamine right here for me. You turn on airplane mode, you turn Wi-Fi off, and it's not on your bed. That tells your brain there's no dopamine source nearby. We're fully committing to the rest, and we want to get good sleep tonight. So yeah, guys, this was a pretty in-depth video. I have no doubts in my mind that if you are able to implement these things, your sleep will be fixed completely. Focus on these good habits. Your sleep will be transformative, and your life as a result is going to be completely different. I spent most of my life since I was 15 having god-awful sleep. I only really fixed it last summer, and the past year of my life has been extremely different, more enjoyable. I felt less anxious. I feel more relaxed when I wake up, and I feel like my mind couldn't be sharper or clearer. Sleep is really important. I hope you guys grow to understand and respect that, and I hope you're able to implement all of the tips and tricks that I've listed in this video. I tried to touch on as many key concepts as I could. My community is linked in my bio. I also have my workout program and my diet guide in my bio, so if you're interested in that, feel free to check that out as well. Otherwise, I've got a full guide to optimizing your circadian rhythm, your diet, exercise, lifestyle, and everything in my community below. So feel free to check that out if that's of interest to you, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See you guys.